Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now the middle of September of 2022, and we are just days away from the release date of Star Wars Andor, which by the way is going to be a very big deal for a lot of fans out there, as a lot of fans actually really love the Rogue One: A Star Wars Story film, and given that this is going to be a prequel, a lot of fans are hoping it out to be one of the better Star Wars TV shows. Apart from that, what I'm personally looking forward to the most is the Ahsoka series and The Mandalorian Season 3 for next year. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, we already know that Favreau and Filoni have a host of new Star Wars TV shows in different phases of development, such as many of which are in the early development stage, some of which are in production, principal photography, post-production, and so on and so forth. They have a lot on their plate, to say the least. And at the very minimum, we have a lot of great things coming out of what Favreau and Filoni are doing by using Star Wars Legends as a template to really kind of just recanonize some of the great material from the 1990s and the early 2000s that's really going to become a part of this new Star Wars universe moving ahead. And that brings us to where we are today. Now, given that, of course, Kathleen Kennedy is still having a lot of issues with shows out there like The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, she's beginning to finish up, but The Acolyte is the real troublesome one for her. On the same exact, level of that, thankfully we have Favreau and Lucas involved and calling the shots on some of the episodes of the Acolyte series. Moving on. Now, on top of all of this, what's even all the more exciting has a lot to do with the fact of what Favreau and Filoni are actually planning to do with the character of Luke in an upcoming project. Now, with both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni now developing The Mandalorian Season 4 and preparing a very involved story for both Luke Skywalker and Din Djarin, it's described, however, that they are also working on a very special Star Wars series that is set to be considered a Rise of Skywalker sequel series that will expand the stories of Rey and others, as well as something very special for the characters of Luke Skywalker, of course, as an example. This is a project that has been in the works since early 2020 and is getting ready to go into production sometime later this year. Both Favreau and Filoni are involved and are set to do something substantial for the character of Luke Skywalker in the show. Now, many storyboards have already been completed for the new series, where one of which involves a brand new power that Luke Skywalker will utilize in the show that will resurrect himself to the mortal world. This is described to be a new power that will be linked to the Wills, who are godlike beings that can only be used once and temporarily to help others. This new animated series that will be animated in a very realistic style, almost think like the Old Republic cutscenes or Star Wars Eclipse, is set to bring back Palpatine's Sith spirit that traveled into a Sith acolyte's body. Now, let me just stop here quickly for a second. Now, we talked about the Rise of Skywalker sequel series a very long time ago. Maybe I would say the end of 2020 is the last time you really talked about it in detail. And they stopped, development on it for a while because they were very busy with a lot of other projects. Now they're finally getting back into it, and a lot of things are coming out of this. So this is the one project that we talked about that Daisy Ridley did not want to become a part of, and they are getting somebody else to do the voiceover work for Rey. Now, we already talked about how Rachel Weisz is going to be the voice of Rey in this upcoming project, and they're going to also use her for facial scans to portray an older version of Rey Skywalker, or whatever you want to call her, because Jon and Dave are giving Rey a brand new identity, as we discussed just a couple days ago. Now, with that being said, this new power that Luke utilizes is something of a mystery. Now, one thing that we do know is that, we'll talk about this in a second, George Lucas was supposed to use this power in the original scripts of Return of the Jedi for Obi-Wan Kenobi. For those of you that don't know, Obi-Wan Kenobi was supposed to use a special power in one of the original scripts where he would actually be able to come back to life on Endor, where he is flesh and blood. And Luke Skywalker sees this through his perspective, and he actually realizes that he's back to life, and then he goes back to the netherworld of the Force. So it's a very interesting power. We really don't know all that much about it, other than the fact that by Jon and Dave, they are making it that it's only going to be used temporarily by Luke Skywalker, and it's a special type of power that can only be used in certain circumstances. Now, the Whills, we really don't know all that much about them as well, and that's exactly why Favreau and Filoni want to build on those characters in future animated material and other Star Wars projects out there as well that will be live action. Now, the next thing I really want to go over here is whether or not the return of Palpatine is going to be a little bit too much for fans. I mean, let's face it, Palpatine came back to life 3 times in Star Wars Legends. You know, I wouldn't be all that surprised if they did it again, and they are. They are going to make a canon that his Sith spirit escaped his body in Episode 9's ending and transferred over to this Sith Acolyte character, which, by the way, is the code name of the character. We're not quite sure exactly why they're dubbing it that, but we'll get to that in just a second because it may very well be the answer. Now, Favreau and Filoni are currently creating a big canon piece in which Luke is going to face Palpatine and destroy him once and for all in the upcoming series that is going to serve as a bridge between live action and animated material. This is said to be deeply inspired from Dark Empire, in which Palpatine's Sith spirit survives. However, this time, his spirit will be used in a young clone body of himself that is labeled as a Sith Acolyte. The character will be modeled after actor Matt Smith, as he was originally supposed to play a young Palpatine clone in the original scripts by J.J. Abrams for Episode 9. Now, Favreau and Filoni's plan is to take an old power that Lucas meant to use for Obi-Wan and place it in for Luke Skywalker to face and destroy Sidious once and for all in this new sequel series for the Star Wars franchise. Currently, they are going to be using many different types of technology by ILM. Revolutionary technology, to actually be very specific. Now, the thing is, they are going to be making this series look very realistic. It's going to have that photorealistic, style to it. It's not going to look like Rebels or the Clone Wars, and it's going to have more of a real look. I want you guys to think about maybe the cutscenes of Star Wars Eclipse, or the Old Republic, or Knights of the Old Republic. All those games have those realistic animated styles. That's what they're aiming for, except even better than that, because they are going to be using this revolutionary tech that's going to allow, a step up from motion capture. We're not quite sure what the technology really is, but it's going to be quite an interesting piece to see how this is all going to be done in such a very realistic way, yet it won't be considered live action. So here's the thing about Palpatine, is it being overused? I would like to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I feel, at the end of the day, yes, you could have utilized a new character, but let's think about it this way. This is Favreau and Filoni's way to give the death of Palpatine, the proper way of doing it in the Star Wars world, by ending his life by the hands of a Skywalker, which unfortunately we did not get in Episode 9. We got the death of Palpatine by the hands of Rey, and that kind of messed up with the whole Chosen One prophecy thing. As we all know, it's all about destroying the Sith, is of course the whole thing about the Chosen One prophecy. And that messed around with the overall canon, and that's why Favreau and Filoni are jumping in to kind of change that. So overall, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.